Welcome to The Longer Game, the only show that's dedicated to the future of retail. We bring on real-life people in the retail industry. We talk about their experiences, we share their stories, we apply it to what's currently going on in the market, and we look towards the future of retail. You could say it's Retail Reimagined. My name is Michael Marr. I run a customized, done-for-you service agency called Cartology that helps brands win on Amazon. Now, while my expertise stems in the Amazon field, we bring on a wide array of guests because retail is expansive. You've got e-commerce. Yes, you've got marketplaces like Amazon. You've also got brick and mortar that is evolving. You've got logistics. You've got technology, finance. There are so many aspects to retail, and it's complicated. So we're here to bring you the entire story. Do you think that you have an interesting story and you'd like to tell it on the podcast? Then go to thelongergame.com and fill out a form to be a guest on the show today. You can catch The Longer Game on any social channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thelongergame.com. We've got all awesome guests on this show, so that I will promise. Are you ready to hear more about the future of retail? Let's get down to business. Welcome, everybody, to The Longer Game. We are a podcast that talks all about retail, and we have all different kinds of guests on. We talk about the actual in-store experience. We talk about digital. We talk about tech. And today we have Satej Sirur from Rocketium. He's the co-founder and CEO, and he is on the tech side, but he's got a lot of experience. So, Satej, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me. This is a pretty exciting time to be alive and to be building products and to be selling. So,
Agreed.
a lot of people are worried about the future. I'm not getting into geopolitics, but with AI and job losses and cost pressures, it might feel a little scary, but definitely a very, very exciting time to be alive and building products, selling products.
I think that in those times where there is pressure, that's when change is happening. And I think ultimately change can be for the better. As you look at something like the Industrial Revolution, people were worried that, their jobs are going to go away and everything was going to be terrible. And there was a period of transformation where some jobs that were done by humans were now being done by machines. But look at manufacturing capabilities, look at capacity. All that stuff has changed, and there are now people that need to service those machines, create those machines. And that's kind of the era that I feel like we're in right now. Does that feel like a parallel for you?
No, for sure. And we can always belittle this and brush it under the carpet because maybe you and I are not affected. There is going to be real impact of this. But
Sure.
again, just at the risk of joking about this thing, I had seen a skit from a British comedy series where they had two people who are doing their stone work, and a person comes with a bell and, hey, I'm here to announce that the Iron Age is officially here, or Copper Age, whichever one was the one right
Yeah.
after Stone Age, and saying that, what do you do? Oh, you do this? Oh, you have a job. What do you do? Oh, unfortunately, we don't have a job for you. So yeah, people didn't want to move away from the Stone Age to whatever the next age was, and I'm sure there were enough rebellions for, why do we need paper? Why do we need fire? So eventually, all of technology and not just software, we have to look at it from a million feet up. If you see it, all of this was technology. All of it came in, created disruption, and changed how we do things. But eventually, it led to good outcomes. Not because technology in and of itself is good, but humans are resilient. They're adaptable. They want to be happy. They want to be successful. They'll find a way to make the most of it. Obviously, some people are going to lose jobs, but yeah, it's what happens throughout history.
I think it's very wise of you to say, some people will be affected, because certainly people will be affected. I think there's going to be a change in that where people are affected, that it's going to require them to say, okay, is the thing that I was doing really the best thing that I could be doing? Or is there maybe more that I could do as a human? I think what makes humans incredible, besides just the fact that God created them and they're here on the earth, and so be the human that you are. But I think the thing that makes them incredible is their desire to tell a story, their desire to put meaning behind things and want a deeper purpose, a deeper meaning behind something. And so there is a level of ingenuity that's there too, figuring things out. Like we're not the strongest, most capable animals that are here on the planet. But some
For
way,
sure.
for some reason, put me up against a polar bear, I'm going down. Like it's not going to be pretty. But we've been able to
Yeah,
find ways to.
most of us can't hold our own against a honey badger, let alone a polar
Yeah,
bear.
there you go. Okay, so like we're in agreement on that. But there is a level of ingenuity and thought that goes into it. Just how we think about things. I think it's so complex and it's so amazing. But I think you're right. People are going to be affected. But was that really the best use of that person's talent? Is there more that they have to offer? And I think sometimes people settle for just doing the monotonous because they think I don't need to want more. I don't need to dream bigger, or this is all I'm capable of, because they've been told you're only capable of so much. And so I think when these periods of pressure come, there's a reason why coal gets turned into a diamond, because of pressure. And so I truly believe that in those difficult moments is when we learn to endure and when we find out more about who we are as people.
For sure. And if you define your job as I'm going to take a design, I'm going to resize it for all of these 20 different dimensions. I'm going to just manually copy paste and change the copy and change the assets, and that is my job. Then you forget you as a human, creative, innovative, full of ideas, what you are really here for. Your job is not to operate Photoshop or Figma. That's not what you are hired for,
Right.
right? And so a lot of times, if we define our job like this, then something that changes that, we would resist it. But if we remember our job is customer communication, making sure somebody gets the message about what your brand is really standing for, or just educating them about something that is new. Just you don't even have to go very high level and talk about creating world peace or any of that. But really, what you do on a daily basis, it's not about downloading the Excels and putting some numbers in a spreadsheet or any of that, right? If you define your job in a little more higher level, then you will welcome technology that helps you do more of that and less of whatever is very easy to do with automation. So that is really where we see a lot of value, where we see our customers who are the most successful, who start by saying, what is really our job? Instead of saying that, hey, prove to me that I won't have to change anything. I'll keep doing things my own way. And you magically figure out, using AI, you can do everything, but then don't change anything in how I work, right? Those customers generally are not really very successful.
I think people look at technology as a solution, and I see it more as a tool. The problem isn't solved in and of itself by technology alone, but it's what's your end goal and then how do you end up getting there. Like a lot of people take a tech first approach in that they're like, let's just implement all the latest new best technology. But is that technology available, and is it ready to be used? A great example is there's a lot of ad tech solutions out there that use what they say is AI bidding or AI campaign creation. But I've seen that stuff go off the rails this past month. Like it's crazy how off the rails that stuff can get because it's not being driven by a human. It's just being driven by a machine that's using past inputs and then creating more stuff based on those past inputs. There's no forward thinking, and that's the problem. Is we're not thinking about what the actual issue is, and then what is the solution we want to get to. Then technology, I think, comes in, and I'm not anti that at all, but it's like, what is the applicable use of it? Now we can take technology and turn it into a tool that allows us to get to that end solution.
Yeah, and I first of all applaud anyone who is looking for the latest tech and wanting to bring it into their day-to-day
Sure.
work. I think that's 50% of the problem right there. The fact that you recognize that there is a better way to do it, you're open to trying new stuff, but without having a reason to bring it in, I think it's not going to work because you will want it to solve some problems it was not meant to solve. You might solve a problem that is not the largest one to solve. So even when customers come to us wanting to use AI or having a strategic initiative where they need to use more data, the way we try and explain this, and this is something we do even at the cost of slowing down the buying process, where we say that let's understand what your process is today. So Rocketium broadly does two things. One is around creative content, one is around creative intelligence. So getting you all the content that you want with a design product and a human in the loop if you want one. And on the intelligence side, giving you insights about how your content is performing, how it could do before it even goes live, things like that. So in any of these, before coming in and saying you're going to get all of these magical things, and this is how AI just replaces all of this. We try and help them understand what are the 5, 10, 15 individual steps in the middle
Mm.
that you would do today, and showing you how AI, automation, analytics can improve each one of those. Even simple stuff on the creative side, people are spending hours today, every week, just sitting and naming files according to a file naming convention that
Mm.
a paid marketing team has given. This is not a useful
Yeah.
activity to do for anyone. Nobody enjoys this, but they just accept it. So saying that, look, AI can actually look at all of your past projects that you have made in Rocketium. It can tell you these are the naming conventions that you've used, this is the most common, and so on, and then automatically name your files, right? Even resizing files. So some of those activities that might feel mundane, they are not very highlight worthy capabilities. But if you really break it down and you say, let's think about your 40, 50-hour work week. If you break it down, these are the typical things that people are doing. You might not measure it. That's okay. But we are telling you this is where time is going, and they nod their head and say, I get it. This is what I want to do. Same way with analytics, people are spending time going to each platform, downloading an Excel, munging it all together, tagging creatives,
Yeah.
then running some pivots and all of that. Now saying that, hey, data gets synced automatically, dashboards get updated. You have a co-pilot to ask questions. You get alerted when something goes wrong. Then they say that, oh, okay, these 20 steps, six of those I continue doing, 14 of those I get some help, five of those get done without me even touching it. Right. So I think that if you think about the problem like that, you can actually get to success.
It seems like some people don't analyze first, like you said, where their time is going. And I've talked with people recently where we talk about, bigger companies, and you've got a bunch of people in the room, and they're saying, they're just having communication about what am I doing in my role? What are you doing in your role? And there's a lack of definition. And so someone says, hey, I'm doing this thing. And the other person says, I'm doing that thing. It's like, well, why are we both doing this thing? Because there was no thought ahead of time. I'm a big fan of EOS. We've implemented EOS in my agency,
What is
Cartology.
EOS?
EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. There's a book called Traction that was written by Gino Wickman, and a really great book. I read through it and was like, how does he know exactly what what I'm going through? I liken it to a devotional that I read every morning called My Utmost for His Highest, and I can feel God talking to me through this guy, Oswald Chambers, who wrote this. That's exactly how I felt about Gino. He's like, businesses are dealing with this, and I was like, whoa, has he been on company calls? How does he know what's going on? So it's so crazy, but we started to implement that, and it was really effective, I think, because of the clarity that was brought by defining, here is your role, here's what you should be doing. Here is exactly what you should be doing. Are you clear in that? Yes. And then having conversations where we reflect on, am I doing my role well? What are our core values as a company? Are we living up to those core values? How do we repeat it when we hit a core value? When we failed on hitting a core value, how do we make adjustments so that we don't do that same thing again? And there just seems to be a lack of clarity on how people spend their time, what they're doing. And if more people communicate it, I'm a big believer in over communication. I'd rather you tell me more stuff and me just say, hey, look, Satej, I don't need to know that anymore. So thanks for telling me, but I'm good. I'd rather have more communication up front so that we can figure out how to work best together and then build maybe a more efficient way. But the over communication piece is huge. People just don't communicate or don't analyze what they're doing. And so that causes, I don't know if it's blissful ignorance maybe is the right term, but you just think, well, this is my job and I just do it and that's it. And like you said, people that are looking for technology are thinking, is there a better way to do this? And I think it's a great question to ask.
Yeah, and the reality is that because we work with very large brands and very large agencies, or agencies who support those large brands, they are not growing at 100% year on year like a company like Rocketium would, which is a little earlier stage than those brands. So when they are growing 4, 10, 15%, the work that you do, the amount of change that you need to bring in every year is also of that magnitude. You're not growing your team that much. You're not looking for a lot of changes. So a lot of it is about, hey, this is an oil tanker. Let it keep rolling. Like we don't need to keep pivoting all the time. We don't need to keep changing. So a lot of it just comes down to that time horizons are very long. You don't really need to bring in a lot of change, but I fully agree. People should be reflective of what they are doing on a daily basis, especially when so much change is coming. They should ask the question, what should I be doing? What parts? And that's how we have built our software. We never started by saying that, hey, Adobe is an X billion dollar revenue business and it's growing so much, and let's go after a
Yeah.
10% point of that market, right? That's not really our style of building products, because when a large company came to us and said that, hey, on a daily basis, these are all the mundane and BS things we are doing that we are not happy with. How do you now help them with that, right? So um, that's how we looked at every part of the process and said, where is there a gap today? And some of the examples I gave you on the creative side is where we started. Today we've expanded into analytics. Same thing. What are things that you would rather not do? What are some things that where you want to spend more time, but something else is taking away time from your work? And that's how I believe software really adds value. Instead of saying that Salesforce is large or Oracle is large
Yeah.
and I want to go after that and rebuild the wheel, I think you are just replacing one problem with another. Instead, you want to look
Mm.
for some of the gaps that exist, and especially with some of these agents and things like that, the job to be done, the problem to be solved is still the same, whether you give a human a software interface to do it, or you give them a chat interface to do it, or an agent autonomously does it. The job get needs to get done, right? So it's important to know what the job is, who really should be doing it. And now with some of this advancement with autonomy that is coming in, some will do a great job. Some places I think they are the perfect fit. But like you said, if you're expecting these things to autonomously do everything, yeah, the car is going to crash.
Man, I love that analogy. The car's gonna crash, but I think also you said it really well. Like you're creating another problem. Now you're okay. We've implemented this solution that we feel like is a solution. We're spending money on it. Maybe it's wasted money because we're not fully implementing it. And I think it requires time. Like a great example for at least for me and my agency is we implemented using ClickUp as a project management software like probably 4 years ago. Over the past year, we're just now like really utilizing it more efficiently, and it is our central database. And it's taken us implementing EOS, but also just finding someone who's really knowledgeable in that solution and saying, like, well, what is it that you're wanting to do? What are you trying to do? And then working backwards into how we get to that end solution. Tell us more about you talked about the gap. Where's the gap that people at, like what's their current state, what's the future state, where do they want to be? And I'm a big believer, there's a book called Gap Selling. It's a certain style of sales, and it basically says what's your current state, what's the future state, how big is that gap, and can the person that's selling fill that gap? Tell us about the gap that you're actually feeling right now for brands, for companies with Rocketium.
Yeah. So we talk to two kinds of people within companies. One is the paid marketing teams. They are the ones who get content from agencies or from in-house teams, and they are then using data from different paid platforms to then make decisions and run their campaigns better. So for those teams, we either help them, give them content through our software as well as the humans in the loop that I spoke about. Because the gap today that exists is they either outsource this to agencies who charge a lot of money for all the content that they're making. They're not able to keep up with the volume of content needed. Or if they do, then it costs money, it takes a lot of time. So giving them all of that content in a fraction of the time and the spend, because automation, AI, analytics is helping. And then secondly, giving them those same insights, which otherwise the gap that exists, like I said, is you have to do a lot of this stuff manually. For if you don't have predictive analytics, you are now spending money on a Facebook, Google, whichever platform, testing your creative ideas, then waiting for 2 or 3 weeks, getting the results, and then spending the rest of the money. But now you could look at past performance and at least whittle down, instead of 10 ideas, down to five of your top ideas, because there's a lot of past data which is already sitting. So both content as well as intelligence for paid marketing teams. A similar sort of problem exists within the creative teams as well, whether they are in brands or agencies. They have staffed a team to sit and use Photoshop, Figma, tools like that, which are originally built for something else. One is built for photo manipulation, one is built for UI design, and then you are shoehorning the creative content making process for marketing visuals, which is there's a lot of versions to make, there's a lot of size adaptations, there's a lot of rapid changes. Now you are having a person sit and operate a tool that was built for something else to
Mm.
use in marketing campaigns. So the gap that exists is just so much repetitive manual work that exists, manual work in checking each design against brand guidelines, platforms, best practices. So now each of these steps we have understood and we have built a product for this team, which we call Rocketium Creative, to look at each of those steps and bringing automation. So taking a design, blowing it out to all the different sizes that you want, doing maybe a 95% job of that, and then you as a designer are fixing it, making any changes to it, and using that in subsequent iterations. Or the file renaming that I talked about, taking a static project that you've made hundreds of creatives, automatically animating that and making a
Mm.
GIF or a video project out of it, which again, you can go and change the animations right in our software, but giving you that first draft of those things. So those are different ways in which we help. So paid marketing teams giving them more content faster, cheaper, and giving them insights that they would otherwise take a long time to get on their own. And for creative teams, making their teams more productive.
I don't know. I disagree with you. I actually enjoy naming files manually. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite
I
things
know
to
what
do.
I know what you mean, man. If you're not joking, I'm certainly not joking. I love doing dishes. I love
Oh,
doing,
sure.
just yard work. It's just the most meditative and, relaxing thing. But if it's a Friday night, I have to spend time with family, and somebody just came and said, "Hey, can you just make that 499 price to 599 and then just export everything, resize the files?" I'm really not going to enjoy my life.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy naming stuff, but I do get what you mean about some of the like methodical things. I'm trying to think of things like that I enjoy doing, and nothing's really coming to mind. But maybe I'll think of something as we go. But certainly there are things where you can kind of turn your brain off, and in a way to speak, and just kind of be. I've done that with like watering my yard, or seeding and strawing something so that I can get seed to grow. So that can certainly be something I could see doing the dishes. I am the official cocktail maker in my house. That requires a little bit more thought.
Yeah.
My wife's a great cook. She probably doesn't have to think about as much as I do about making drinks, but because she can just kind of be impromptu and on the fly. But I think what I'm hearing you say is what you're doing. You're taking all that manual work off the table so that it frees these humans to do more of the human things that they like, not just are capable of doing, but like doing. I don't think most people do like manual repetitive work. I think they probably do that because they think, I said, people are told this is what you're gonna,
That's my job
this
description.
that's my job description, or like I'm not capable to do more. I'm because they never had anyone build into them or encourage them, and we're getting into more of like a life goal, or life how people view themselves, and philosophy is kind of the direction that we're going. But life, sometimes we'll tell people, or people will tell people in life, hey, this is what you're going to do. This is all you're ever going to do, and that's it. And people just settle for that. And so when they realize, oh, I can actually do something I like, maybe even at the same company, maybe even in the same role, that to me feels very exciting. And I imagine, I want to hear from you, but I imagine you have companies that come back to you like, oh my gosh, maybe our workforce is more invigorated. There's more energy because they're not having to do the crap that they don't want to do. Am I on the money on that?
Oh, for sure. And when you talked about gap selling, we could go and tell people this: your team is going to be more productive, you're going to have more ideas, your campaigns are going to be a lot better. But that's not a gap. It's this, what do they say, the vitamin versus the painkiller. I can't
Mm,
sell you vitamins, I want to sell you a painkiller. So some of these things they realize a lot later, some realize it right away, because the more they are open to changing what they are doing, and their identity and their a whole being is not tied to the use of certain software and certain processes, then they realize this a lot faster. So yeah, we have people from agencies, from brands coming back to us and saying that I can't believe I was doing this nonsense before. Just simple stuff like, today, if I have made work on a design software, somebody else has to review it. You use ClickUp. Most companies use some version of that. So
sure.
what they end up doing is they would export these files, put it up in a Google Drive or one of these tools, and then somebody has to give feedback. I was just listening to a feedback that Publicis, the agency, one of their directors had given feedback saying that I want to give feedback saying make this a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. If I just put a comment saying make it a little bigger, what are you going to do? You're going to try something from your Asana, ClickUp, Monday.com. You're going to go fire up your design tool, make that change, hope that's what you meant, send it back, wait for this person. Versus now in Rocketium, you are giving feedback right there. You're pointing at that place, make it a little bit bigger. Two, with role-based access control, if you trust the other person, you can actually allow them to go and make that edit themselves. You can allow either changing copy, changing assets, or even doing some design work right there. And the third is because of manual comments, they can only do so much. There are automated checks that look at, hey, are objects overlapping? Has stuff gone into multiple lines? Are you using words that should not be allowed? Is there enough contrast? And any number of such rules, it automatically checks so that another person is not worried that you've made a change and something is not on brand, right? So I'm just saying these are things that as they do, they realize that there is so much value in it. We don't sell based on that because it feels like one of those things that you have to experience in order to value it. But yeah, we start with the gaps and then people come back to us with these kinds of stories.
Well, and if you just tell someone, hey, we're going to do all these things, they don't actually realize the gap is there. You have to ask questions like, how much time, instead of saying we're going to change, team the time that's spent on your team, just ask them how much time is spent doing naming of files. We don't know. You've never measured that before? Oh, okay. Well, did you know that like over half the companies we talk with, they're spending 20 hours a week on that? Do you think that that's reasonable? Yeah, that might be reasonable. Okay, well, like, what if I told you you could do it in an hour, or no one had to do it anymore? And it's like, oh, well, like that's possible. Yeah, exactly. So now you're opening their mind. You're getting them to
Yeah,
recognize the problem, and then you're
yeah.
helping to realize, okay, there's actually a solution for that.
No, for sure. And if we did pitch, we would have said that one of our goals is obviously better campaigns, lower costs. That is very understandable. But even happier teams. That is something that we really want to say that that's
Mm.
one of our goals, that your team should be happy. You don't measure it. You are not thinking about your work and how to optimize it. You are thinking about how to communicate with your audience, how to get the message across. But we obsess over how you work. We respect your work and your operations, but at the same time, we have a healthy dose of skepticism, saying, should they be doing this? Is this the right way of applying their creativity and ingenuity? Like, why shouldn't software do it? Why should AI do it completely? Or can we eliminate this process altogether?
Let's talk a little bit more about the predictive analytics because I think that's really interesting. And a lot of times in the advertising world, I believe, at least on the Amazon side, people want you to think that they're just the smartest and the best, and that's why they're so great at advertising. And that could partially be true, but I think something that people don't want to admit oftentimes, at least in my world, is that advertising is very much an experiment. You don't know what's going to work. You have a really good idea. You've done a lot of research. Hopefully, if you haven't done research, you may already be you may have already messed up and needed to go back and do more research to figure out what could work. But then once you launch something, you have to measure it and test. Is this going to be effective? Is it impactful? And not just from a creative is certainly part of it, but also just are these metrics what we want to see? Is it line up with what we're wanting to do with the brand? And then you make decisions based on that. But so a lot of times you are testing things. It sounds like what you're doing is helping people maybe make better decisions with tests and maybe eliminate some of the testing process so they don't have to do as much testing. Is that right?
Yeah. So the analogy that I would give is the stock market. You can say that nobody can predict what the stock market is going to do today. So I'm just going to spray and pray. I'm just going to I have my gut, I have my, way of doing what has always worked for me. So I'm going to invest in, certain kinds of stocks or, certain kinds of ETFs. That is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that. Nobody can predict the best hedge funds, the best algorithmic trading companies. Nobody can guarantee a certain level of returns, but they do have millions of dollars that they are paying to quants and algo traders to come up with strategies to predict what the market is going to do and make a better choice than somebody else, right? So we are trying to bring that same methodology here. Nobody can guarantee that you use these insights, your next campaign is going to outperform everybody else, because then why wouldn't we run ads all the
Yeah.
time
Why would
and
I
just
create a
get
brand
whatever?
and just do it instead of you? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing can guarantee this. But does it mean that I'm just going to spray and pray and hope for the best and just rely on how things have always worked? No. And so where we try and fill in the gap is by bringing in predictive analytics on an area that is usually ignored, which is what the creative was. So what we do is we look at you have a creative idea, you can put it in our AI Copilot. What it does is it breaks it down. We have a standard set of creative attributes that we look at around messaging and the models and the background, logo, layout, various elements like that. We have some 80 standard attributes. You can add more to that. We look at all of those, and then we, again, without getting into the technical details, we can look at the overall space and the dimension of all of the imagery that you have used before. We find similar images to that. So A, we tell you visually, these are similar creatives that you have made in the past. We also tell you with numbers, this is how they have performed and this was when and so on. On top of that, what we do is we figure out how similar they are to each of those, and using that and some calculations that we do, we actually predict how this one is going to perform. Now, like I said, nobody can guarantee performance ever, but this at least gives you a sense that this is a totally new idea and there's nothing like this that we've done, or we have done similar things before. This is how it has worked. So at least it gives you a sense of how something is going to perform. So, like I said earlier, if you have 10 ideas that you wanted to try, today the only way to know whether something would work is to spend some money on all 10. Now, this will help you whittle it down and say that five of these ideas are so trash that they are going to bomb because you've tried this before
Yeah.
without even realizing.
Okay.
And because we are looking at what's in the creative and matching it to your choices and not global industry or whatever, it's you, your business, your audience, your targeting, and we give you that. So that is a way to save money, make better choices, test something very cheaply before actually going live and spending money on a paid platform and knowing how it performs.
It sounds like just awareness of things is helpful. Meaning, okay, I want to try an idea, but you don't have an awareness or recall that we actually already did something like this. And so that's what you're
Yeah.
helping people do is say, hey, you did something like this before. It actually bombed. Trash. Don't do this. Spend your
Yeah.
money on this other thing over
Hey,
there.
your wife is a great cook. Maybe she can put a finger on the steak and know how well it's done. I know you know that technique
Oh,
of
yeah.
doing
I
this.
use that all the time. That's so funny. Yeah.
So you could do that, and you could be great and do it. But most times it would help if you have a probe thermometer and it goes off and tells you when to open it, right? It's a lot more efficient. It's a lot less relying on tribal knowledge and hoping to get it right. That's kind of what we focus on.
Yeah. I love that. I actually end up being the one when we go places to cook steaks, which is of all things interesting. Unless it's here at home, like we'll go to my parents' house or something, and they'll ask me to do it. I don't know why, but I enjoy that. But I every single time I do it, I'm actually doing the thumb.
You've got meat juice
Yeah,
dripping all
yeah,
over your
it's
hand
funny.
because
It's funny, or I just end up searing my own hand to test to see if the theory actually
that's
works.
nothing better than that.
Yeah. So, what is something right now that you feel like brands are not thinking about? And this could be, an e-commerce brand. It could be, maybe a company that works with brands, an agency, whatever. Like, what is something that people are not thinking about, especially on the tech side and things that you're doing, that they should be thinking about?
One is at the very high level because, like I said, Rocketium focuses on two things. One is creative, getting you all of the creative content that you want, and then on insights about some of these creative decisions, campaign decisions. A lot of times, because one is a painkiller, one is a vitamin, they'll go for the painkiller. They'll always say, "This looks great. We don't do much of this today, and we want to do it. We have a system, and we'll get to that. This will be phase two. Let's start with this, then let's go to this." Right? So I feel analytics and being a little more thoughtful about what content to make, what is working, I think that can unlock massive potential because Facebook, Google, they give you standard set of attributes on it. Not everybody can afford or even have the mindset to have a data science, a marketing science
Mm-hmm.
team to sit and do this kind of analysis. And now when we've baked all of that inside a product, I think all you need is a certain kind of mindset to try it. So I would say that's the biggest thing that I noticed that brands, agencies are not trying. They want to solve the immediate problem, which we are still grateful for. You use some way if we can add value to your operations, that's great. But I feel the insights and the performance analytics that we can give, that's an area that more brands should be thinking about.
So just like you said, being thoughtful about what you're doing, and that requires you to know and digest the data first and think about it, then you can actually take action on it.
Yeah.
That's something I notice on the advertising side, and I've talked about this with people that work at ad tech companies. When I'm going in and I'm making changes to an ad campaign, most of my time is first spent analyzing and looking at performance, evaluating, and then I'm saying, did this work? Did this not work? Okay, not 100% sure. well, okay, this did work. Cool. I'm going to make an adjustment here. Then I go and start making all the adjustments, and it's slow at first. I used to kind of harp on myself and beat myself down, like, you're not making changes fast enough. But it's like, no, it's okay. You need to process and digest, and then you can actually
measure twice, cut once.
I say that all the time. You're using all these things, the meat test in your hand, measure twice, cut once. I said that to my daughter in the car the other day, or actually I was installing something in this.
Measure twice, but please don't cut your brother.
Right. I was just funny. I was saying that to her the other day. So, man, this has been super insightful. I think just brands being aware of what's going on and then being thoughtful about what they do is something that anybody can learn from. That could be in manufacturing a product. Like, okay, I want to create this product. Is there an actual problem, or is there a solution that's needed here? Because if not, my product may not actually help anyone. But once I know that, okay, is this the best design for this product? Let me see what other people are doing. Let me see what comments people have made. Or even just if you already are making a product, are you reviewing what people are telling you and looking at that data and saying, okay, we've got 50 complaints about the fact that our box sucks, but we've got 3,000 complaints about this one piece on our item that's not working. So, like, what should we fix first? Okay, well, let's go with the thing that has potentially the bigger lift, is going to solve more issues. But just being aware and looking at that information is half the battle.
Yeah, and innovation doesn't have to be completely 0 to 1, creating something that has never existed, because you can't do that sort of 0 to 1 every single day. There is just not that much human capacity to do that. So a lot of innovation really comes from continuous improvement. So I think a lot of people need to know that they need to measure, they need to break down what they do into smaller steps, need to bring in tech, bring in some thought leaders, whoever can help them reason about it and do it. Life is not about eking every single 100% perfection and efficiency out of everything. But somewhere, if you are unhappy about something that you do on a daily basis, it could be the outcomes you're getting or daily collaboration friction or whatever it is. I think it's high time that you would look at this.
Innovation doesn't have to be something brand new. It can just be continuous improvement. I like that. That's good. All right. Well, Satej, it's been awesome having you on here. If people want to know more about what you're doing, where should they look? Should they maybe see if you're washing dishes and or renaming files? Yeah, where would they go to find out what you're doing, or find you more about what you are doing?
Our website is the best place to look at the information. We have case studies, we have information about our products, and just some videos as well that go into it. So that would be the first place. We have a very responsive team. So if you want to know about the product, just enter your email address. Somebody will reach out back to you. But yeah, all of us are fairly responsive on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to hit up any of our team members. Search for Rocketium on LinkedIn. There are 65 of us in the team.
Oh, wow.
So we are happy to help you.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. And that's it, everyone. That's the show. We don't have anything else for you. So go out and start doing some continuous improvement and innovating. All right. That was the show. What did you think? That was the longer game. We would love for you to share the show with other people and to leave us a review of the show. So go to iTunes, go to Spotify, even go to YouTube, comment, leave a review, and share this on any social channels that you are active on and wherever you have influence. We want to share this story and stories like it to as many people as possible. Do you have a compelling story and do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, and you're in the retail industry? Then go to thelongergame.com, fill out a form, and we will contact you about coming on the show. You can find us on any social channels: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can go to our website, thelongergame.com, to actually read all of these episodes in blog form in text, because we know not everyone's going to listen. This podcast is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We are a customized, done-for-you service agency that helps brands win on Amazon. It is super complex selling on the Amazon Marketplace. We help simplify that for you. This podcast is also brought to you by Podcastify Me. They are a full-service podcast production company that designs podcasts around people who are paid for their advice. That is coaches. If you want someone to help create, strategize, and distribute your podcast to the masses, go to podcastify.me to find out more. I've so enjoyed that you've been a part of the conversation and that you've given of your time to hear these people's stories. We'd love for you to share. If you want to find out more, just go to thelongergame.com. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. And until next time, cheers.